What does it mean to you to be a man?
That's a good question. I've got a really good Latin quote I like. It's I think if I can remember right, it says, "Nemo vir estique mundum, non cedat malorium." It says, "What man is a man who doesn't make the world better?" And so to me, to be a man is whether you're a father, whether you're a husband, whether you're single, whatever it is, you've got to leave the world a better place. And I preface that with, as well as how you do anything is how you do everything. My wife says it drives her nuts because I'm like, how we do the small things is how we're going to do the big things. So to me, to be a man is I need to make the world better. And how do I do that? I do the small things to the best I can.
Scary sharp.
I have a couple. So I have like 3 that I collect.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to steal that one. But I was like, well, the founder gets to keep it. That's for sure.
Did you like shank specifically or just tomahawks and axes?
I have a knife from Shank, I'm pretty sure, that's like Damascus steel. But I actually have like 2 Viking recreated axes and then like a big halberd thing that's about that big.
Yeah.
That sits on my wall.
They're super cool. I think they're awesome. They're super fun. So I did throw out some questions on Instagram. I think we'll start with those.
Okay.
Are you cool to answer some questions? I was like, Kyle's coming on. We got to ask him some questions.
Absolutely. Let's
All
get
right,
them.
so let's pull these up real quick. First one, and I actually know the answer to this already. Is your 4Runner door fixed yet?
No, it is not fixed.
What's the story?
Keeps changing. Though.
What's the story? What happened?
The real story is I got the 4Runner, was really excited about it. Parked in a parking spot in my parking garage in downtown Salt Lake that I really don't park in all that often. And I think just getting in a rush, thinking about work and whatnot, cranked it super hard left, trusting the dumb backup camera, which I never had in my car before that, which is like a 2010 Chevy Cruze. And as I'm cranking it, I just hear crunch. And normally I would curse or something. I just turned it and I thought, well, that makes sense. And there's a pole right there. And I just mashed it right into the pole. The story's evolving, though, and now I tell people that I leaned against a tree. And they're like, oh, it's amazing. You didn't scratch the door. I'm like, it is amazing, isn't it?
That's awesome. How long had you had your 4Runner before that happened?
2 months.
Oh,
Borderline brand new. So I bought it pre-owned, but the guy had only put 8,000 miles on it, and it sat in just his garage for a while. So I bought it 8,000 miles, brand new. He'd put a bigger lift on it. It has a 3-inch lift rather than the stock 2, a little bit bigger tire. You know, thought finally going to get the greatest car I've ever wanted, and then crunched it right into there. And I haven't fixed it yet because I think I'm going to put some off-roading mods on it. Yeah. I've got a sweet-looking bumper I'm looking into, a nice winch set. And so it's like it costs the same to get the winch set, fix the door's cosmetic.
Yeah.
You kind of decide from there where you go with it.
That's awesome. We'll put a picture on it, too, so people can see what we're talking about. All right, number 2, I'm sure you'll be able to guess who asked this. As an attorney, and we'll get into that, how do you balance upholding the law while still doing what's best for your client? There are several gray lines in how do you approach these moral decisions where serving your client may not be fully upholding the law, or upholding the law may be hurting your client's case?
That's a tough question. And I think it goes a lot to the root of what I do as like a compliance attorney. So I help people either buy businesses, sell businesses, or a lot of data companies are coming up. They offer SaaS services. They offer, online platforms and cloud services. And the question becomes, to what extent can we be compliant? And to what extent is that just not possible with the reality of funds and other things? So I'd maybe reframe it as, I could never tell anyone to break the law because we can't, right? But I will try and walk the line of what budget do you have? What time constraints do you have? And where can we get you where your compliance and your risk profile are balanced, right? We push the compliance up to bring the risk profile down. And there's a give and take. If you want to be fully compliant, you're going to need a full legal team. You're going to drop hundreds of $1,000s a year. And even then, it's questionable. It's judgment calls, just like the question said. There's gray areas. So I really actually pride myself on saying, what are your high-profile risks? We've got to mitigate those. You've got to have this. What are your low-profile risks? If you've got time and resources, let's get into those. But if not, let's marry you a solution that gets you to a point where we can feel comfortable operating. And then if someone comes in, if it's a government audit, if it's another attorney, if it's a private complaint, we've got good faith reliance to say, this is what we did, this is what we couldn't do, and we're kind of balancing those risks.
Yeah, I think it seems like with law, there are a lot of like timelines, deadlines, compliance things. You have to submit this by this time. And I guess, are there ways to kind of stretch those timelines out or get delays or get things to where you're still able to help your client and put them in a better position while still meeting deadlines and not meeting deadlines.
Yeah, in the court system, which I don't operate so much in litigation, you've got hard, like 21 days to respond here, but then you can file extensions. Carson's a good reference for this because he does bankruptcy. In the corporate realm, most of our deadlines are, party imposed. So if we have a closing that we're trying to do, business is selling for $50 million, it's going to say we have a drop dead date of November 30th. Most of the time, if you've got good relations, in my experiences, parties are just fine extending that if there's kind of good faith efforts going on for one party to close it. But we've had deals where we saw the other side delaying and we kind of, go out, send that notice and say, unless you play ball with us, we're done. We can't waste more time. We can't waste more resources. So in the realm I operate in, it's far more private deadlines rather than government imposed deadlines. Each year you have, taxes, filing deadlines, corporate reports that are due with the state. Those never change. But the good thing is, to anyone who has a small business, you generally have grace periods. It's like, oh, it's due by this. Most state statutes will say you've got 30, 60, 90 days before you truly enter delinquency. You have to file a late fee with it as well, but you can recover at least if you're somewhat cognizant of those ones.
Gotcha. So you, from an attorney perspective, you kind of touched on it. You help businesses purchase other businesses or individuals purchase other businesses as well as the sell end of that. Is there anything else involved with that? Is that going public as well, or is that all just strictly buying and selling businesses?
Yeah, so I do it in the private equity realm for the most part. They call it private mergers and acquisitions, and it's all of the above you described, but for privately held companies, meaning that they've never gone out and they've never actually registered as a public company on an exchange. All of their equity, whether that's in an LLC, whether it's in a corporation, whatever it is, it's held by a private group. It can be in private equity funds, which is where you actually have, outside investors coming in, dropping funds in. But almost everything I do is in that realm of strategic buyer who's private, wants to buy a strategic seller who's private. And so it's really nice because they come together and you just marry the terms and you kind of hash it out, get your purchase price based on a valuation, figure out the ways to structure it in a tax efficient way. And then you're basically trying to get the parties to a point where our risk is okay when we're selling it and your risk is okay when you're buying it. And let's get this done and not talk to each other again afterwards if we do it right. Because if we're talking afterwards, someone's messed up or we've got claims coming up and problems with customers.
Are there certain sizes that make the most sense? I mean, you look at somebody who's done like a landscaping business and they're trying to sell that for X number of dollars versus these tech companies, as you mentioned. So what is kind of that operational size range and revenue range that makes sense?
That is a really, really tough question. I'd say I've done sales anywhere from $200,000 for small friends that they just wanted to sell off a firework business was one I recently did. And he wanted to document it. And I said, look, I'll give you a purchase agreement that at least protects you and documents it so that you're not coming back with a sticky note of how you sold your business. But I've also done them up to $300 million. I think where it makes sense is actually the timing of your business. So sometimes, especially with SaaS technology companies, they're pre-revenue for up to even maybe 8, 9, 10 years. They've done 4 or 5 rounds of funding. They've done A, B, C, D, and they're still pre-revenue. But they come in and they have a large strategic buyer that says, we know you're pre-revenue, but we love your product. We love your IP. We want to acquire you guys. Here's our exit offer. And that can sometimes make a lot of sense for a founder team who's only put in really sweat equity and not a lot of their own money because they can pay off their investors. You're going to have kind of a waterfall of A gets this, B gets this, C gets that. And then at the end of the day, they might get $5, $6, $7 million. That then gets them to a point where they can start a new venture, kind of roll forward, have a little bit of almost generational wealth from one point. So my answer to that would be look at where your business is and kind of say, are you at a point where you can keep operating on your own? Or does a strategic buyer come in that makes sense where you can maybe make an exit and then let your money work for you in other investments? And I think that's more the timing.
That's super cool. I think we have that happen a lot here in Utah specifically where, I mean, we have all these tech companies down in Lehigh and everywhere else where this is happening. And I don't really see that behind the scenes stuff of like what's going on and everything. I think that's super, super interesting. Does it make sense at that point strictly from, like you said, the smaller purchase? Are you charging per hour? Is it a percentage of the deal? How does that usually work? And so obviously it has to take some sort of a revenue stream to make sense to hire you and a law firm to make sense. How does that structure work from a financial perspective in using you and your firm?
Frankly, the tough part of legal counsel when you're selling a business is the fees don't scale well with the size of money. A $2 million deal can sometimes take just as much complexity and legal work as a $200 million deal, sometimes more. The reason I'd say that is small businesses that are closely held sometimes, and I don't think this is a bad thing, I think it's a reality of operating, they haven't kept good records, they haven't kept their contracts with third parties, they haven't kept good ownership records say they're giving out like equity to their employees, which is common in small startups. If they haven't documented that well, we have to come in and clean that up if we're on the sales side. And that can take anywhere, let's say maybe $25,000 to $50,000 on our end if it's a small company. And that's not fair to those small entities because they're selling for $2 million. Does it make sense to then come in and have to pay $200,000, $300,000 of that just to have an attorney sell your business? So I think my answer would be, kind of going back to, we bill hourly, but we're pretty fair firm. We try to say we'll be 1% to 2% of your fees is generally where we are. Problem is, though, at a $200 million deal, that makes sense. We're actually only at like $200,000 for something like that. $2 million deal, that leaves you at what, $20,000? It's probably going to take us 30 to 40 to sell your business. And you kind of have to tailor the product, I think, where you can be a good attorney and a bad attorney. Bad attorneys are lazy. They'll come in and just say, we're going to put 6 guys on this deal. We're going to work it to death. We're going to shatter every legal barrier. It's going to be great. I think a better attorney can say, the $2 million deal, again, to that risk versus reward profile, I can get you a pretty safe space. I can get it so that guy's not coming after you afterwards, but you're not going to get the same value as if you spent $300,000 on legal, right? Trying to give them a product that still helps someone feel good about selling their business, but not staying up at night thinking, wow, I just gave $500,000 to my lawyer for a $2 million deal. And that's just not fair to small business owners. And I think that's why a lot of firms don't take on small deals, just because of the complexity of, you have to walk through all that and be cost sensitive at the same time.
Yeah, that's super awesome. I mean, I could talk about this all day. I think it's super cool. It's super, because I don't know that world, right? But I see that world in different ways. And
I talked to, I think it was Alex, and I talked about it a lot when we were at the home run derby.
Yeah.
We were sitting out in the field and we talked for 15, 20 minutes about stuff like this.
That's super cool. Well, and then going back to the original question of how do you balance that line with morals, just because we met at Man Games, I didn't know you before. And then specifically in the basketball game, I remember very vividly, that was a very close game. Our teams were very evenly matched, and it went down. I think it was like 14-14. It was almost like the next point wins type of a thing.
Some tall guy in our team shanked a 3 to try and win it. No names given. Probably Carson.
I won't drop any names either. But there was a point in that game where one of our guys broke loose, and again, won't name names, but they were like, foul him, like right to just try to stop the game so that we couldn't win.
I remember this.
And then you spoke up though, and you're like, dude, like let's play the game. There's no reason to
a lot more colorful language. Right? I said, we're not freaking fouling him in this.
Yeah. So you're just again from that perspective where it is a gray area, right? Because theoretically, if they're going to get an open shot, go foul them, and then the game continues and you don't lose. But I was impressed by that. Right? I thought that was super cool.
I'm prideful. I think there's a purity to basketball, and I like clean basketball. I like good basketball. It drives me nuts if it is a smart call. You get down to a game and you're playing in a real college game. If you don't foul, your coach is pulling you out, right? Pickup ball for me, I'm kind of like, if he made the good move and he's got you, he's got you. Yeah. I'm not going to go. Had too many injuries, broken ankle in pickup games where guys shifted over. I'm like, let him have it. Yeah. Nothing's worth that for me to ruin the purity of that point. So just let him have it. And I'm prideful enough. I'm like, I want to beat these guys in a game, not in some fouling concept of hack-a-shack.
No, I thought that was super, super great.
No, that's good.
All right, here's the last question that we got for now, unless some more come in while we're talking. But somebody said, I wish I had learned more about his story, where he came from, his family, and his sports background. So tell us about that. Were you born and raised here? Where were you born and raised? What does your family situation look like growing up? How did you get into sports? What sports were you involved in? And then what does your family situation look like now?
Yeah, for sure. Actually grew up in Colorado. Born in Idaho, many years ago, 30 years now. But grew up in Colorado. My family moved there when I was 8 or 9. Played sports there all through high school. I've got older brothers that are phenomenal athletes. So I've got one older sister, 2 older brothers, and we lived in Colorado until I was 18. Probably my brothers are the reason that I was so involved in athletics. My older brother was all-state in football, basketball, and baseball. Wow. So if I ever get to craft a team for this, you better believe he's getting brought on. Just a phenomenal athlete. And so sports are what we did. My dad played college basketball for Utah State back when they were, I don't even remember. I think they might have been a D2 or something that time. Mm-hmm. And he played for SUU before that, even kind of transferred around. So basketball is what we did. We loved basketball, loved baseball. I can't remember doing anything really other than sports growing up. During summers, it was traveling teams, it was AAU ball. And at that time, you kind of hate it. But then I look back and I think some of the greatest life lessons I ever had, some of the grit you learn, the work ethic comes from sports.
Yeah.
So just fantastic. And then what happened for me kind of growing up, hitting 18 and went to college, I didn't plan on playing any college sports. My brother, though, was pitching for Southern Utah University back when they had a baseball team. And I was throwing roughly probably 88 to 92 coming out of high school, just skinny as can be. No, more skinny than this now. I was about 6'5", $150 coming out of high school. didn't have any weight on me whatsoever, but I could still throw about 90 to 92 when I was bringing it. And so he said, you need to come to SU and play baseball. I said, I'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
So I went over there, already had an academic scholarship, and became kind of a preferred walk-on, showed up once, pitched, and they said, why don't you join us? So I pitched for a year with them. But then when I did the LDS mission route, SU got rid of baseball.
No.
So that went away. And then coming back, I love basketball. Basketball is just my sport that I've always loved. Probably had more natural affinity for baseball. But there's something about basketball, just playing it with buddies where you can always just play pickup. When I came back, I wanted to try that. So I went and tried out for a junior college down in southern Utah, in Colorado, called in La Junta, named Otero Junior College. That worked out for a year. And then when your eligibility ends, you shift back. And I went over to Southern Utah University again and finished out there. Met my wife, who's fantastic. She's from Southern Utah. And then we've had, 3 kids since then, went to law school, played a lot of sports on the side throughout that time period. And actually, I think the most fun thing is basketball, baseball, those have gone away, but I shifted to combat sports like boxing and Muay Thai and MMA in the last 3 years. And I like to compete, like to stay healthy. I hate running just to run, so I can't do that to stay healthy. And that's kind of why the sports background led to let's do something else competitive.
That's super cool. I'm kind of the similar way. Like I hate running. I'm more like a dog. If there's a ball involved or a frisbee involved, and I can go chase a ball or a frisbee, I'm in. But if it's like just go run for kicks and giggles, I just can't do it. How did you get into fighting? Like what is that? And especially like, was your wife like, yeah, go fight people? What does that look like?
She kind of just laughed at me. She said, let me get it straight. You want to go punch for fun? I said, yeah, sounds fantastic. Let's get it.
Well, I think a lot of people go to like a boxing gym, like let's go hit bags. But now you're like, no, I'm going to fight human beings. Like that's a whole different level.
Yeah, I actually started because I was scared of it. This sounds funny, but when I'm scared of something, I like to do it. So I'm actually really terrified of heights. Carson, I don't know if he's hiked with me before. When we get to like Angel's Landing in southern Utah, terrifies the heck out of me going up that chain. And when we get to the top, I sit down in the middle. I'm like, I'm good. I'm not going to go to the edges. Just kind of hanging out and fighting, because my brother actually did like MMA stuff when the military was always tough. And I always thought, I'm kind of scared of that. And then when I got done with law school, all my basketball groups I played with, all the intramural teams I played with were gone. I thought maybe I should go try boxing. So I walked into a boxing gym and said, I'm just going to do bag work. A year and a half later, I was kind of doing it, and they said, you should spar. Like, that's the next level. You can get great exercise just doing boxing fitness. Like, you really need to spar. And I thought, competitive side of me wanted to do it. I remember being so, like, jittery and excited that first day. Like, the pregame jitters that you used to get in high school and college came right back. And I was fighting some, like, 5'6", scrappy little fighter. And I was like, this guy's in trouble. And he lit my world up. It was the most embarrassing moment of my life. I'm, like, 200 pounds, 6'6". This guy's $155 soaking wet. And he was so fast and so quick and, like, just blew me up. And I think it transformed into, well, I'm kind of scared of getting hit in the face. So I want to learn to get over that fear. And then there's just an art form to it. You watch real good fighters, like in UFC, when UFC was here, like Leon Edwards. He actually came to the gym where I do with Muay Thai right now and watched him train. And there's just a precision. There's like a beauty and an art to it. And there's so much finesse and timing. And it's like dance. There's a rhythm. And when I started seeing that after about 2 years, I thought, I want to try a fight. Yeah. And so I've done 3 fights now of actual boxing matches. One was at like a fight night event at FitCon, and that one was big. Fought a big old guy that beat the crap out of me. He didn't knock me out, but he did win. And it's just a ton of fun. I think it's that chance to test yourself and say, 2 guys are trying to kill each other, but you've probably seen this in sport too, Eric, like even at man games, you can leave it all out there. You can be the worst enemies, but there's like a mutual respect that just grows. Yeah. Especially in fighting, I noticed it. You fight someone who's good, where you're challenging each other, where he smacks you good and he rips your head with a big cross. You come back with a kick to his thigh and get him good. Afterwards, like, man, that was a good hit. Yeah. And you just create a brotherhood right there where you say, like, there's a mutual respect. We went toe-to-toe. We tried to kill each other, but there's just, like, a love that grows out of it.
That's so cool. I went to that UFC fight, and
that was sweet. I saw your video on it when you posted.
Yeah. All of those fights leading up to it, that was the first time I'd actually been to one, like, in person, and I was amazed how, for the most part, most of the fights are pretty slow moving, and then there's just these intense moments where
and the knockouts like that. Like sometimes you're like, wait a minute, he get knocked out.
Yeah, and it could be the guy that's winning the whole time, like with Usman. And I mean, he was up, and then just one shot, and it's over. And it's just crazy how intense those moments get, though, and how they're doing everything they can to win. But then they're also these really slow, just kind of filling each other out, and it's like, man, that is.
And the fun thing is,
wild.
you mess up once in a combat sport, you can be out of it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's plenty of sports like that, right? I mean, free soloing, probably the best example, right?
Yeah.
But like, fun part of boxing is I've had not great boxers light my world up because I got lazy. Dropping my left hand down here, he snuck over the top, and you get smacked. And so the sharpness in it, I enjoy it. I mean, there were some fights here that were kind of scrappy, but there's just that element of like, you get your hands down, you're not paying attention, it could be over. Just what happened to Usman, right? Controlling the whole game, 4 rounds in. They're in the 5th round, minute left?
Yeah.
He's dominating
I think
the
it
whole
was like
time.
56 seconds or something.
One kick to the jaw drops him like stone cold. And I think there's a kind of a beauty to that you've got to stay sharp the whole time. As soon as you drop your hands, you might be in trouble.
Yeah, it's a whole nother level, right? And I mean, you take that up a step further in the military, as you said, your brother and everything else, and having friends that have been in combat and stuff. And same thing, like you just have to be sharp or else you're dead. And I think that's just such a different. I've been sheltered to where I haven't ever had to feel that feeling. Luckily,
Just dominating man games.
Yeah, that's different. That's different. And I don't know that we'll ever have a fighting sport in man games. I just feel like the waiver wouldn't quite cover what we were looking for.
It'd be a little intense. You could get like those big dumbbell stick things. Where you just like knock each other off pads.
Like the gladiator thing.
We could get that.
Yeah, that'd be super fun.
No, that's I don't know. Even it's actually more dangerous too. I've gotten more hurt sparring people that are like new to a sport because they're just ramped. They're ready to swing. You very rarely get hurt fighting good fighters because they know how to place their shots. There's like a controlledness to it. They'll knock you out if you're not ready, but I've never had nearly as many injuries or anything fighting good fighters.
That's so interesting you mentioned that. I think of like basketball in that sense too, of you think of church balls or rec ball. There are more injuries that I have experienced or seen from that because there's almost a level of body control where if the person doesn't have enough experience in whatever the sport is, they aren't able to control their body. With good players, they're predictable in a way, right?
They know how to space the floor, right?
You know what the movements are going to do. They aren't kind of herky-jerky, but if they aren't there, it's a little bit dangerous.
There's the ones where you go in for the drive, you go up, like, he's going to go right underneath me.
And they might not be intentional, right? They're just moving so fast, they don't know where to avoid.
Same thing. You fight good fighters, like there's a rhythm. And like they'll catch you and they'll pop you, but there's a rhythm. They're sharp. You can kind of sense it. Bad fighters, they go into like the bear hug mode, and you're like, I don't know when this guy's going to hit me. And it turns more into like a brawl than it is a sport. If you watch like two good fighters, like, Edwards and Usman's the top level example. You watch good. There was another one there, I can't remember their names. There was a striking match that like they space right, they move right, they counter move, and it looks like just a fluid dance when they're going at it, and it's fun to watch.
That's super cool. So of the events at Man Games, which one was your favorite?
I mean, I'm biased. I loved the basketball because I just couldn't believe you talked about like good players. Good spacing, good competition, just good shooters. Holy cow, Bobby. We were up like, I want to say 10-9 or 10-8 on them. We're like, we're going to take them. And then Bobby just ignited and dropped us in like 5 seconds. It was 1-3. And these were contested threes. He's coming off screens like 8 feet behind line and launching. So I had a ton of fun at basketball. Golf was a hoot though.
Yeah.
Loved golf. As far as like camaraderie though, it was so great to sit down at poker night and just talk like wholesome crap with everybody, have a good time. I wasn't the first out on my table, so that was good, but I'm not as good at poker. I'm trying to remember who won I think it was Sione won our table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Sione hit, so we've had poker 3 times that Sione's been there. I think Sione's been to 5 Man Games. So we've had poker there. I think he's won his table all 3 times at Man Games. The very first time he ever played poker was at Man Games. He won his table, and then he's won the other 2
He crawled out of a hole. He had like 1 stack of chips. I had this huge one, and then I don't know how he did it. He just like a zombie came out of the grave.
Yeah, he's a stud. Poker's awesome, right? Because that's the one where you're kind of by yourself. All the other events, in some form, you're with a teammate. This one, you're by yourself and getting to know everybody. Poker's a personal favorite.
It's a ton of fun.
That's sweet. How was Man Games sold to you? How was it pitched to you? Was it Carson that came to you, or who?
It was Carson, but he was like the indirect passer of JD, and it was sold to me of I need to take Eric's team down.
Perfect.
Carson said we need, and this is the problem. Carson's like we need some ringers. I'm like, well, what the heck are you doing with me? Because I'm not good at spike ball. I'm not good at pickleball. We did all right in the B League.
Yeah.
Athleticism translates okay, but JD I think asked Carson, and Carson and I have been best friends since pretty much law school. We live by each other now. Our kids are like the same age. It's kind of eerie how much we have crossover there. And him and I still golf a lot. We should be better for how much we golf. That's probably disappointing, but we play basketball a ton. And so that invite came, and the idea just like, are you kidding me? You get to go compete against another 8-9 teams of guys and just put it all out there for a weekend. Sounds great.
How much strategy was involved, or was it just kind of like, let's show up and go?
JD was bringing strategy.
Yeah.
He you probably know he he got you guys in his crosshairs. He was like, I'm taking Eric down.
Yeah.
We definitely, I mean, we played pickleball before. We didn't get to play basketball or anything before. I think their goal was Carson's dominant at volleyball.
Yes.
Like, I mean, everybody saw that. It's so cool to watch him. And I mean, he'll never admit it, but I think he could probably hit harder.
Oh, yeah.
Because his worry is like, if I spike this the way I normally do, it's going to take someone's face off, right?
Yeah.
And so they're like, Carson will win volleyball. Like, well, we need someone who's decent at basketball that can kind of golf. And I was like, well, I can kind of do all those things. So that's where it fell to us. And I think our strategy was JD's really good at pickleball, really good at spike ball. Grant is great at a lot of those sports. Phenomenal golf shots, actually. At the end, he saved us with an eagle.
Oh, wow.
Like eagle approach. We were coming up on one of those par fives. We shaved 2 strokes right there that jumped us like 4 spots because he put us on the green in 2. It was fantastic. So I think our strategy was we're not going to maybe be the best at any single sport except volleyball, but we're going to be pretty darn competitive in all of them. And I think we ended up in 3rd. We were pretty pleased with it. You guys, and you guys win? Was it Maddie's team?
We won, and then Maddie, Weston,
right?
McKay,
And you just tipped your hat because, I mean, I was stoked that we were there with all the athletes there. And you kind of watch guys golf. You watch them hit home runs. And you're like, 3rd is... I was pretty happy with that. So.
It was funny talking to JD before because he's like, yeah, we got this college baseball player coming in. And then like a week later, he's like, I found out he's a pitcher.
I need a disclaimer. Like LinkedIn's going to say like not a actual hitter because that's all everyone ever wants. In softball, they're like, oh, you play college baseball. You're a ringer. I'm like, I can hit. Like I had a good round, but I'm not like, gosh, who was it that was just crushing home runs? I'm losing the name right now.
On our field?
Yeah.
It might have been when I left.
Other field.
Oh, on the other field. I know that Justin Burke was crushing some home runs.
Justin
I know
can swing.
Brad hit some home runs. Nate Goodfellow was cranking home runs.
That's what I was going to say. I'm like, Nate can swing.
Yes.
I'm like, if you need me to pitch, I'm probably even useless then because pitching's like a thing you got to keep your arm in shape. So I need to get rid of that misnomer of like college baseball. It's not helpful in anything anymore. No, like, it's really not.
That's so funny. But you do have, in my opinion, the highlight of the the home run derby event, and I'm going to throw that over this right now. So I'm going through and I'm trying to edit these and make these highlight videos or whatever. So I'm going through like every swing. And so at this point, McKay is up. McKay's hitting it, and he hits a pretty good shot out to left field, but it's rolling in the outfield. And so I'm just waiting for the next pitch, and then I see out of the corner of my eye just somebody dive, and I'm like, what happened there? So I have to rewind it. And it's the whole part. It's the setup, it's the choppy steps, it's the dive, it's the fact that you didn't even come close. I don't know if you were trying to push the ball out or what. Like, it wasn't even close. And so I just lost it. Like in my living room, my wife was like, what is going on? I just lose it laughing watching this. So take us through the form, take us through the mindset. What was going on there?
I think I was standing by, it might have been Weston, honestly, or those guys. I was hanging out with them a lot, hanging out with the Macy Media guys a lot. And someone hit a ground ball, and I just said, I got ball, coach. I'm heading for it. Being completely goofy, because you can see the slowdown, right? Because it's just a low little dinker. So I was like, slow down, choppy steps. And then I actually just threw my glove and dove. The intent was to try and like trap it with my glove, but it looks like I just slapped the ball away. Stellar form, a lot of effort. I think I probably dove 8 or 9 times. I was trying to stay warm. Frankly, I didn't have like a coat on, so I was just sprinting all over.
Yeah.
And then like the old man syndrome was kicking in. My back was getting tight from the golf one. I'm like, if I stop moving and I haven't hit yet, it's game over. So I just kept running around the field diving. It was great.
It was awesome. I was out in the field for part of it, again, because I was running a lot of this. So I was in our field for a lot of it, and then I would go over to the other one. But while I was there, just you were all over the place, and you're making these plays, and just the baseball chatter. Because I grew up playing baseball too. I didn't go to your level, but just the chatter. I was like, oh, this brings back so many memories of just
that was amazing. Was it Brad when he was on the podcast said like Under the Lights? Made it special. I'd have to agree, man. There was like, even though we're all just out there hanging out, that to me is an event to recycle because the nostalgia, and then like getting up there the first 4 or 5 swings, you're like a little nervous. You're like, oh, I haven't swung in a while. And then like you're hitting, you're like, oh, this is fun.
Yeah.
This is just let it rip, let it swing. And that was a ton of fun.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
I'd never done a home run derby before, so that was kind of cool to experience.
I think it was a raging success. I don't know.
What surprised you the most at Man Games?
I'd have to say,
because this is your first one, so this is your first experience. You didn't know anything going in other than what JD probably lied about. So
he never lied. He said Eric's team is the one to beat, and you guys didn't disappoint. So
when you run the event, it makes it a lot easier to win it.
No, you guys, gosh, you just watch everyone. Like I watched some of the pickleball games, and like I said, I feel like I'm a decent athlete. But you're like, these guys, your placement, and they're just not airs. And then the spike ball, like that video highlights it well. Like some of those plays, Carson, I've played with him, and I consider him phenomenal at spike ball. And they were middle of the pack with you guys over there. It's just crazy. So, I mean, don't take away from your guys' skills. But I think what surprised me the most was, I mean, kind of playing sports when you're younger, I feel like it's just a constant, like, I got to one-up other people. Like, that was probably a wrong mentality. A lot of times I was playing hard, but I was always like, I got to be the best guy out there. To me, this was like a chance of like, let's all just leave it out there, and we're all professionals. We've all, grown up, maybe except JD, shouting out to him. And we've all grown up, and we got to play hard. We got to leave it out here. But just the collegial feeling of, yeah, we were playing hard. Like, I wanted to beat you guys in basketball so hard. But right afterwards, you're like, that's a great game. Just the feeling of like this many guys coming together, having a good time with the goal of, let's not get hurt. Let's compete. Let's put it all out there. But then once walk away, and maybe if I can help you with legal work, or I can help you form a business afterwards, stay in touch. Like, I keep in touch with Bobby now on LinkedIn and some others. And I think it's great because, Utah in particular, and even just, it feels like the world's smaller now with everything. So if you can find guys that are like-minded, that love to compete, but that are also in so many different aspects of business, that's amazing. And that surprised me. It was kind of expecting like, it's just going to go out and compete. And it turned into like the best networking event I think I've been at in a long time. So.
Yeah. And we've said it before, it's not a networking event, right? It's not billed as that. It just turns into that when you just start playing. And there are a lot of we're still competitive, as you mentioned, but there's a lot less of the high school drama, or the drama is when you're younger and less mature of this person, I think I'm better than them. And there are intense moments. Again, basketball gets physical, but it never got out of control. And then as moments got a little bit heated, they died down immediately, which was great. But again, people like you that come to this event, you make that happen, right? Because you can get people that don't have that same mentality. Our first rule is don't be an ass. And you have people that can't control themselves. They have to win, and the competitiveness is there. But we're very fortunate, I think, this year and in past years to keep it all, pretty solid.
Well, it's fun to watch guys compete. Like you said, Justin, man, smooth.
Oh my gosh.
Basketball player, smooth. He had a dunk going through, and I mean, there's a chance you could maybe go challenge him. I'm like, dunk it out. Like, this is the chance, man. Show it. Like, Carson had one as well. And I thought it was awesome watching guys just, at golf, we were, I think we were right ahead or behind of Sione's group. And it's just fun to, like, talk crap with them as one of us hits a great shot or shanks. And it's just fun to watch guys be able to excel. Like, I'd never seen Carson actually play, like, full bore volleyball. Because every time we play, it's like, it's like a church pickup thing, and he's just going to tap it. And it's kind of fun to watch guys in their element that can just do really well at things.
I love it. I love getting beat by that. Right?
How about Peyton, though, who has a cannon?
Oh, my gosh, yes.
Like dodgeball, full extension. He has a cannon.
Yes, the other team had like 3 or 4 guys left, and he was all by himself, and he came back and just
started, like Tim Lincecum, like 10-foot stride.
Taking people out. Sweet. We've touched on Carson, and we brought it up on another podcast with Nate, but Nate was like, I think when Carson was playing us, he was probably going like 30%. And then even in our game, because I know that he wanted to beat us, and your team obviously wanted to beat us. We were both undefeated at that point. I still think he was maybe at like 60. Like, I don't think he was really pushing it against us either.
Tough to say. We'll have to get him on here and figure it out. I don't think he ever went 100 on his spikes for sure, just because like you saw the angle those are coming at. They're like borderline straight down, and you catch one of those in the face, it knock your teeth out, break your nose. I don't think he was holding anything back against you guys as far as like spacing wise and whatnot. And he was. His
movement for sure, but I think his hitting, because the last
I think
serve,
he could definitely bring it more.
You guys were up by a lot.
Oh, his
it's
jump
game
serve?
point, and then you could tell him like, should I do the jump serve? He's asking you guys, and I'm over there like, please don't do the jump serve. And so I was like, I'm
got the spin.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm gonna get out of the way. I hope this goes long, and it comes right at me. I was like, yep. It's over.
That's fair.
But he only did that once. Like, he could have done that every single time, and we would have never got the ball back.
Yeah, that's for sure. And there was definitely games where it was kind of like he actually probably didn't get that many kills because we're like, well, we're up and let's save him because he's springy. I still can't believe how springy he is. It's that quality diet of like Costco muffins, Red Bulls, and sitting in your chair as a lawyer leads to 45-inch verticals. That's a note for all the listeners, right? He blew my mind. First time I played basketball with him, he's like, I'm really tight, flat-footed, like tomahawk dunks it with his elbows at the rim. And I'm like, you're tight? And that's how you dunk? Like, I can dunk, but that's like throwing it down.
Yeah. Disclaimer, this is not health and nutritional advice. Do not.
It's definitely, you got to get out there. Costco muffins and Red Bulls. Carson will, corroborate it for us.
Which law school did you guys go to?
BYU. And he started at Gonzaga. I think that's where he met JD, actually.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. That's super cool. I'm trying to think, so in your personal life, what do you do to stay in shape outside? Is it just your fighting at this point? Do you get opportunities to play in other sports leagues and things like that? Or is it just strictly to keep in shape you're fighting people?
So I actually only do like active combat sports about once or twice a week. I go to 2 different gyms. There's one called Ultimate Combat Training Center that's off 3300 South, and there's one called like Koa Kingdom up north off 200 North that they have actual Muay Thai fighters, and I'll go spar. But most of the time, I built like a pretty intense gym in my garage. And so my brother, who's like in the Army, is kind of a fitness monster. He just designs workouts for me, and I'll just lift in there. So like yesterday, I did like a deadlift and leg strength day. And working out's fun for me. I'm never gonna be like a powerlifter like Justin's jacked. I'll never be that guy. But I love to stay active. I like to jump rope, so I'll generally jump rope, get warmed up, do a 45-minute hour lift. And then pretty much every day I will do like 15, 20 minutes of like bag work for either Muay Thai stuff or boxing. And that's kind of my fitness regime. And then on the side, I have played in some city leagues, like Carson and I played in like a basketball league the last year. But honestly, like, and you don't ever want to bag on the other players there, but just it wasn't all that fun. There was some really good ball players there, but the risk for injury, like we had one, I went on a fast break, went off left-handed, was going to go up, and the guy just took my back legs out, and back flipped me, and I came out of it just fine. But so I don't really play in that many competitive leagues. Yeah. We're going to probably play in a men's league for golf next year, since we golf at Valley View up north about every week. But other than that, it's pretty self-driven, 2 days a week at a kind of combat gym, and then lifting 3 to 4 days a week.
Dude, that's awesome. That's admirable. What events, assuming you'll come back and play in Man Games,
if I get the invite, I'm there.
What events do you want to see that weren't at this one?
I'm trying to think. We talked about this. Man, I don't know if there's that many. Cornhole. That's actually, Carson and I talked about. I feel like cornhole would be a good one to mix in there, because that's also one of those like long games where there's got to be someone who's just devilishly good at it. Yeah. I'm not. So I'm not good at the long games. Just create everything else. Get rid of those. Have you done Ultimate Frisbee?
We've done Ultimate Frisbee.
Yeah, yes. That one would be fun.
Were you sore in this Man Games, like after the first day? Or you just, it's probably not as bad for you with your fighting experiences.
Not too bad. My back actually was from the home run derby and golfing. That was probably the most, like I think the rotational torque. Little sore in my legs after day 2. I was fatigued, like general fatigued in the end of day 2, but I felt pretty good after this.
Seems like everybody else I've talked to is like, I was crushed after day 1.
Well, they held on to it. They were looking good.
Because we did Ultimate Frisbee one year, and so we did basketball, and then we did Ultimate Frisbee right after. And Ultimate Frisbee kills you. Like, it is so intense. And so it's a fun sport, but playing 7 games in a short amount of time, like it wrecks you. But it's
Have you ever thought like 4-on-4 like football, where it's like, okay, maybe you can't sack the quarterback or something, it's just flag, but you've got 3 receivers and you run routes or something like that? I haven't thought about how you'd integrate it. Yeah, we've flirted with that. That one makes me a little bit nervous with people getting heated again, but it's something that we can definitely try. We've done like a punt, passing, kick, which was a lot of fun. That'd be cool.
Yeah, so just each player gets 3 punts, 3 passes, and 3 kicks. So that one's pretty fun.
Have you ever thought about combining it? You ever seen the guys, what's their name? Dude Perfect? They do all sports golf.
Yeah.
Like, where we create like an event where it's like, okay, you have your event specific ones, but this is like you've got to hit a golf ball with a baseball bat or something weird like that.
That one would be super fun. We did an all sports shootout within like indoor soccer nets. And so we had different targets, and then we had 3 spots close, 3 spots mid-range, and then 3 spots far, and then one at like midfield. And so you had to use a golf club. There was like a foxtail that you swing around and throw. There's a little zip chip. It's like a miniature frisbee. There's a frisbee. So you had to go through all of these things and use them. It was pretty slow moving. It was fun, but it was pretty slow moving. So I got to figure out a way to make it a little bit more dynamic and maybe timed.
Last one, water polo.
Ooh.
I think water polo with like, you got to get floaties, because we went all time.
That's so true.
Water polo could be fantastic.
That would be fun. A swimming event would be interesting, right? Just like a relay race of some sort. That would be kind of fun. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Well, let me ask you this. So I always kind of include these 3 questions whenever I do this, and they're all kind of selfish for myself. But the first one is, who would you like to see at the next Man Games that wasn't there?
Oh, that wasn't there. Man, and this can just be like someone I know?
Yeah. Usually like I try to, let's do someone you know, and then I don't know if you want to throw a celebrity out there, that'd be fine.
So there is, I would actually love to see the brother that I mentioned earlier there, because he's really good at golf. He's actually built a lot like Justin. And I'm like, he would probably in home runs, he'd be more like Nate. He's about 6'4", like 230, would just rip the ball.
Mm.
Like, hit like 19 home runs his senior year of high
Wow.
school or something like that. So I'd like to see him compete in it. Mostly, though, because I want to also see him get embarrassed at long games. Because, like, you bring freak athletes, and I think that's the humbling part of man games is you've got some freak athletes that are like, I've never played pickleball, and it is a humbling experience.
Yeah.
Probably not so fun for some of those guys. But I remember I played JD, like, the first time we played pickleball. Yeah. And he was doing certain shots, and you just kind of stare at it like trickle by, and you're like, that shouldn't happen. But it did, and I couldn't stop it. Like, it just felt powerless. It just held the paddles. Like, what do I do with my hands? We're like, put them down, Ricky Bobby, just holding the paddle. I didn't know what to do. So I think having my brother there would be fantastically hilarious.
What's your brother's name?
Andy Harvey.
Andy Harvey?
Yeah.
Okay.
He doesn't have Instagram. He's too old for that.
It's okay.
But if we could get we got to try and get, like, I don't know, like some professional athlete from Utah or something. Or like, have you ever had, Tony Finau's cousin, Gipper. Yeah. I'm like, we should get someone like him out there.
Yeah.
I ran into him a few golf tournaments.
Yeah. Well, if you know him, invite him. Love to have him there.
Probably not good enough to invite him, like, personally, but I think, who did I talk to? I feel like someone there did know him pretty personally.
I don't know. I talked to somebody. It was the last guest on the podcast. We were talking about Tony Finau because he was
Maddie knows him.
Oh, really?
Because of Primo Golf.
Yeah.
We'll Gipper did some stuff with them. So
that'd be wild. Yeah, because I know Tony is he played basketball in high school. He plays, obviously he's amazing at golf. He played tennis. He's a really good all-around athlete.
Because I feel like if we could grab someone like that, high-profile athlete, give, like, more opportunity, kind of, share it to the world, get a little more voice into it. I think that'd be sweet because it's a fantastic event, great guys, and you kind of bring in someone like that with a little celebrity status. It'd be sweet.
We did have a year ago, there was somebody who came, and he is the brother-in-law to Raul Neto, who played for the Jazz.
Yeah.
And apparently, this is what he said, Neto was committed to come play, but then it overlapped with something that came up, right, a family trip or whatever else. And apparently Neto's unbelievable at everything, right? Soccer, he's from South America. He said, like, spike ball, he's amazingly good. Just everything he tries, he's really, really good.
That makes sense.
That would have been fun. All right, question number 2.
Okay. Who
at Man Games that you met would you want to see in the chair that you're in right now and doing this?
For sure. I feel like you got to get Justin.
Yeah.
Justin, to me, he had, like, that, like, Kobe Bryant, like, stoicism, just kind of, like, chilling. And then I got him to laugh a few times. Like, he is a funny dude. Like, really cool guy, really athletic. I'd love to hear his kind of thoughts. Justin would be great to have here. Alex would be another one. I think Alex, to me, is a good dude. I loved talking to him. He was funny as heck to talk to on the golf course. Yeah. So that'd be vote number 2. Would be
Perfect.
Alex.
I'm going to reach out to them. I agree with you because Justin was so, I don't want to say shy. He was just kind of reserved, quiet.
He's like that Kobe, like, don't mess with him.
Yeah. But then super nice, right?
Such
and then he dunked on us too. And it was one of those, like,
oh, he did.
Did that just happen?
He brought it back left-handed, and it wasn't like, oh, that's a dunk, like a drop in. It was like, that's a bang of a dunk. He's like, oh, I had knee surgery. I'm like, Justin, are you kidding me? That was amazing.
We were the same way because there was somebody guarding him. It wasn't like he was just open, nobody's around.
If you can dunk in half
somebody's
court set,
bumping him, and he just goes up and boom.
Yeah, to throw down like that, you've got bunnies when you're dunking in half-court sets like that. Carson had 2 nasty putbacks where he came through the lane.
Yeah.
Just wild.
That was super cool. All right, last question for you. What does it mean to you to be a man?
That's a good question. I've got a really good Latin quote I like. It's, I think if I can remember right, it says, Nemo vir estique mundum, non cedat malorium. It says, what man is a man who doesn't make the world better? And so to me, to be a man is whether you're a father, whether you're a husband, whether you're single, whatever it is, you've got to leave the world a better place. And I preface that with, as well as how you do anything is how you do everything. My wife says it drives her nuts because I'm like, how we do the small things is how we're going to do the big things. So to me, to be a man is I need to make the world better. And how do I do that? I do the small things to the best I can. So when I'm hanging out with my son, when he's doing junior jazz, which he just started this week, it's like the most fun thing I've ever watched in my life. He's dribbling, makes a good pass. It's like, let him know that he made a good pass and let him know, more importantly, that his effort and his work ethic is what matters. His points are going to come and go, things like that. So that's a small thing I can control. If I'm at work, remember it's with, the people that I work with that matter. You can get lost in legal work. You can get lost in money because businesses, R's got to be greater than C. But at the end of the day, people are going to drive that. So if you're treating people right on a day-to-day basis, I feel like the big things come at the end. So to me, that's the big one is leave everything better than you found it. And you're not a man if you're not making the world a better place.
Dude, that's awesome. That's super cool.
If I ever had a tattoo, it would be right there in that
Well, you got one right there.
The fake one from Halloween. It's fantastic.
What was your costume?
I was a Viking. So I had like one here and I had one going down my back. Carson made fun of me for it. I hope he watches this.
Were you carrying around your big axe?
I had a big axe. I had like a little whole outfit. I braided my hair because I've been growing it out. So it was great.
That's awesome. Well, dude, thanks for coming on to this. Like, seriously, this is fantastic. Just getting to know you again. I know a lot of people they commented on how just great you were at Man Games. So I appreciate that. Just again, from the organizer's perspective of who comes, keeping the event, kind of the spirit of the event where we want it. I mean, you did that perfectly. So really appreciate that.
I appreciate you inviting us. Like I said, I'd love to go back just because the people, the competition, like I said, you've got to bring a level of like, we're going to bring it out here. Because I think that makes it exciting. If we were all bad at sports, it'd just be like, Weekend at Bernie's type of deal. But it was fantastic. And I think the funny thing is, so I used to get like technicals beyond reason in college playing basketball. And it's back to the quote I said, the reason that I had so much fun here is like, if I'm not making myself better in sports where I can compete and also keep the guys up around me, uplifted, then I'm not learning as I play sports. Because, I mean, in college, I cussed everybody out. I was always competing. And, I was a decent basketball player, but at what cost? You kind of like you have your ego, but you need to have that confidence and lift the guys around you. So that was my goal, kind of playing Man Games was, I'm going to compete, and I'm going to try and play, but also let's have a good time, man. And then talk crap in the uplifting way, right? Where it's like, I'm going to talk crap about Sione's golf swing, but he actually had a great hit. Talk crap when he drops it on the green, right? Or when someone dunks it, talk crap to, you had knee surgery. That was an amazing dunk. Talk that uplifts somebody. That's the kind of way I like to play it. So
totally. And I think that I share that it seems this way because in basketball, you got a little bit down on yourself because there's little mistakes here. And so you said a word that may or may not have 4 letters. And so you came up to me and you're like, dude, I'm so sorry. I was like, dude, I've been saying that word all day. Like, that's totally fine. And everybody else is.
That was it. When you guys beat us, and I was mad because I airballed that freaking 3. And I'm like, what was that? Like, what are we doing out here?
Dude, no, you're totally, totally awesome. And to your point too, like Brad mentioned this as well, is you can go as hard as you want there and feel like you're okay, right? And I feel like no holding back because you know that everybody else is going to do the same thing and you've got so many events to play, so you got to get it over with. If you can beat someone fast, beat them fast because you got other stuff coming. And
by volleyball, I was starting to get, that's actually probably where it started creeping in, where we'd stand there and you're like, oh, I got to keep moving. It's starting to get like stiff at that point. That's where it probably kicked in a little bit.
What about dodgeball? How did you? I mean, you're a pitcher. You got the big arm. Did you throw your arm out during dodgeball?
No, I smacked Sione on one good. That's the only thing I remember from. I was watching Peyton's clinic as he's like just out stretching it. I felt like I got loosened up running around like a hooligan. And I'm trying to remember some of the funny ones where Chase had like a crazy athletic, like launched over a ball, like rolled under one. I'm like, Chase, how are you still moving that way? Like what? just next level athleticism. That guy's athletic. He's real athletic.
That whole team was like 27 years old. They're still young guys. So
Weston is like just smooth at all the sports. Like I'd watch him play basketball and he reminded me of like Ginobili, but more like smooth. Like he was just like working through the lane, never seemed like pressure. And you're like, all of a sudden he had this like left hand layup on you. You're like, I have no idea where he did that.
Yeah. He's a sleeper for sure. Nate mentioned that. If you look at him and you aren't like, oh, he's going to dominate me in basketball or spike ball or whatever, and then he does. And you're like,
the team I wanted to play again was the Twins.
Yeah.
They've got a game like mine, like all attack downhill. And I'm like, that doesn't win in this because it's only 2 points. You got to shoot threes. That's why we kept losing. You're like, you got to shoot threes. They were good athletes. The Twins,
yes, they were.
Really athletic guys.
Dude, you guys, everybody else kind of beat each other up in basketball because I think we snuck out 6-1, and then everybody else was 4-3.
In that like 4-3?
Yeah, everybody beat each other. I
think Macy Media got us, and I swear we're gonna get them. But then Bobby and Nate as well, like stepped back and just buried some threes. Alex was playing really good defense on me, and then who else got us? Justin's team got us. And you guys got us.
Yeah.
I think that was the 3 that took us down.
But then everybody else, again, everyone else was beating. And Alex, you mentioned Alex. I think Alex is going to come on here too, so we'll get his story. I think that'll be a lot of fun. But yeah, man, you're just an awesome person.
Thanks,
so
man.
Just really glad that I got to meet you. Glad that we get to know each other. Hope you get your Toyota fixed, your 4Runner.
One day.
Hope that all works out. But
yeah, I keep it there to remind me. It's like it's just a car.
Yeah.
And then my wife makes fun of me for it. And
it's a sexy car, though.
It's a sweet car. And as long as the picture you guys got was amazing. Shout out to the camera.
Yeah.
But JD ruined it, though. Put his comment right underneath it. He's like, oh, you should see it from the other side. I'm like, JD, don't undercut it.
Yeah, the right side looks fantastic. Passenger side is just
It's a lot like all of us. You got the pretty side.
Yeah,
the other side.
good side. seriously though, thanks for coming on here. And then if you ever need anything, again, not just me, but several of the guys at Man Games, we're here. So
Thanks, man.
don't hesitate to reach out.
For sure.
Okay.
Awesome.